Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. It's just that there are some people who think I've disappeared, or I'm dead, or I'm never gonna make another video ever again. And I don't really know what that's about, but I'm here today in this definitely real video that I'm definitely making because I'm not dead, I think, talking to you about TikTok Live. That's exciting, isn't it? No, it isn't. TikTok, great app, isn't it? No, again, I'm doing the double switch. That's the joke there. But before we go any further, I think I probably should address the fact that I haven't made a video in the last 5 months. There's been various things happening in my life that I'm not going to go too deep into, but safe to say, I did hedge my bets a little bit on Berserk as a queer polyamorous love story. If you've watched the video, and if you've not, then please do. It's very good. I'm very proud of it. It's my best work to date. You'll know that there is a lot of production value going on in that video, and it took a long time to make. It took a long time to script. It took a long time to get the interviews all together for it. It took a long time to film it, to edit it. It was a labor of love, and I really, really enjoyed doing it. But I did kind of hedge my bets on it in that I was hoping it would kickstart a bit more of attention on my channel so that I could basically afford to make videos like that with the same level of high production value in the future. So if you are a fan of that video and you're thinking, where's part 2? Why is Mule doing this weird video where he's just like sat in his house? That's the reason why. And it's because of a few things, really. Well, the first thing is that Berserk, even though it's really, really good and I really like it, it's not really one of the most popular things out there. And secondly, YouTube doesn't really like it when you put the word queer or polyamorous or anything like that in a video title. It's not really cool, even if you like put the queer progress flag in a thumbnail, it will bury it in the algorithm. And also, I made the huge grave mistake of having a fake out ending, and then right at the very end where loads of people, I looked at the analytics, people just fucking dropped off at that point in the video. As soon as the fake out ending came up, people just turned off the video, and okay, I get it, that was my bad. But what I should have done instead of that is do what I'm doing now and talk about my Patreon at the start of the video rather than at the end after a fake out fucking ending. What was I thinking? But in all realness, Berserk Part 1 would not have been possible if it wasn't for my patrons. The fact that they'd kept me going, kept me afloat, and also my Twitch community that have also kept me in money doing my full-time job over on Twitch. If it wasn't for you lot, Berserk Part 1 would have never happened. And I really want to get started on Berserk Part 2, but the funds just aren't there. They're just not there. And so I'm going to be doing a series of smaller, more digestible videos in the meantime to drum up a bit of support for my Patreon and a bit more support for my channel in general, so that hopefully soon I can get started on Berserk Part 2. Fingers crossed I could get it to you like, I don't know, middle of next year, 3 months into next year, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, if you like my channel, if you like the stuff that I do, if you want to see me succeed, if you want to help me pay my rent, pay my bills, eat, please consider becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/DJMule, DJMUEL. There are all sorts of benefits that you could get in the various tiers, but the most popular tier to subscribe at is £5 a month, $5 a month. It's the Possum tier. Not only does it mean that you get your name in the credits of the video, like with every tier, but it also means that you get access to exclusive content. So I do a monthly movie review now that is only available to my patrons. So if you're interested in my opinions on movies and what kind of movies I watch and all that kind of business, go and check that out. The next one that I've got coming up is about the film Sisu. It's about an old Finnish guy that just kills a bunch of Nazis. Beast. And of course, you can check out all the other tiers as well. You can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as £2 or $2 or whatever the equivalent of that is in the country that you exist per month. But maybe I should get back to what I'm talking about in today's video. It's TikTok Live. Yeah, you're probably thinking, Mule, why are you talking about TikTok Live? You could probably just talk about TikTok first of all, to tell everyone what that's like. But in all honesty, I don't really need to do that. You should go and check out Mia Cole's video on TikTok and why it is so bad. There are a couple of things in that video that I don't particularly agree with, but overall, I think it's a really, really good primer on why TikTok is so bad. Not just for people who watch stuff on TikTok, but also for creators. Many of you may already know, but I am a live streamer. That is my full-time job. That's what I do on Twitch. I basically stream 4 days a week for as long as possible and basically beg for money. It's the job of a live streamer. What's the content that I do? It's a mix. I play weird video games, but also I talk about politics mostly. But I'm very interested in live streaming as a format, and something that cropped up in my peripheral vision a year or so ago was TikTok Live. I always kind of remember thinking like, TikTok is a very interesting platform just in general. It gives everyone who has a phone in the world, which is actually a lot of people, access to make content and do various things that they couldn't before, and people have made livings out of it, which is really fucking cool. I really love the fact that people who can only afford a phone, they can't afford like video editing software, they can't afford a computer and things like that, they can now make content and basically make money and in some cases do really well. I think that's really awesome. But the thing about TikTok is that it is a social media platform. It has all the same problems that social media platforms have in terms of, well, there's a lot of right-wing propaganda that just gets fucking boosted on there because that is what does well, because it's the thing that annoys people the most.
This is why public acceptance of gay people is declining.
Unfortunately, right now, right-wing opinions are very, very popular, thanks to people like Andrew Tate and Sneeko.
What? No. Okay.
And keep those names in the back of your mind, because I'm going to be talking a little bit more about why they're related to this next thing in a bit. So people do all kinds of content on TikTok. They do stitches, they do duets, they do their own unique content, which is just them talking to the camera, or maybe they do cooking. It's really, really cool, and there is just like such a variety of content that is on TikTok, and it's actually drawn my attention to some creators who were previously on YouTube and Twitch that I didn't know about before. So it's really good in terms of a cross-platform way to promote your content. I've started putting content on there. You can check me out over there. My username on there is @DJMU3L because somebody already got the E, which is not great. But when TikTok Live first cropped up in my peripheral vision, I was thinking, how can you turn this into a live stream format? People are going to be like putting their phones down and like propping it up, or maybe they got like a little tripod thing and they're just going to like sit there and talk, and then people give them money and stuff. Okay, fair enough, cool. Like I always thought that way about Twitch before I started streaming. But anyway, TikTok Live does work, and people go live and do all sorts of things on there. Lots of my friends, lots of my fellow Twitch streamer friends go live on there, like Frenely and Queen Pib. Excellent creators that you should check out if I don't mind saying so. However, TikTok Live is also not exempt from the other awful things about social media that I just spoke about. I started to notice when I was scrolling through my feed that TikTok Lives would come up that are just straight up fucking racist and transphobic and all other kinds of bigotry just clearly on display for everybody to see.
You know, people always say that, oh, Enoch Powell, he was a terrible guy, he was a racist. No, all he was a prophet who was predicting what would happen in the future, and it's happening.
Not only was Enoch Powell definitely a racist, just look at some of these quotes where he's desperately trying to defend himself from being called a racist, something that people who aren't racist never have to do. But he actually was a prophet once when he said this: in the end, the Labour Party could cease to represent Labour. Stranger historic ironies have happened than that. And he's right, isn't he? But what this person is talking about is when Enoch Powell was saying that Asians are going to take over the entirety of the UK. And of course, what else would be being said on a fucking TikTok Live that has in massive letters, how can we really stop the boat people? Not even migrants. You know what I mean? It's so obvious. Like, oh, just fuck off, Owen, stupid prick.
When I say about Pakistani people, be better, there's 1,000 billion things that Pakistani people do which are wrong, and I will cuss them out for that because I can. I'm Pakistani.
We need a big cuss out.
But I'm just saying that the black communities need to show the same anger.
Can I tell you,
and feel.
Tara, some of the stuff that they get up to, you was in the live, I was actually saying it. I sometimes feel very ashamed. When I point it out, they'll get their in the knickers in a twist.
Yeah, is it any wonder that this account is called private, do not follow? The premise is that the TikToker, the host, is this woman of Central Asian descent. She's obviously British, but she is using her platform to basically shame black people. All she ever really talks about and invites people on to talk about is how black people are really violent and they just need to start taking responsibility for their own community and shit like that, rather than like blaming white people all the time. One of the most annoying things, you heard it just then in that clip that I just showed you, is that sometimes she will say really nasty things about the black community.
I sometimes feel very ashamed of some of the stuff that they get up to.
And then black people that she invites on the live will say,
a lot of
feel
people
ashamed for us black people? Why?
Or in this case, her friend, who is also a racist piece of shit, will say,
sorry?
I'm an Asian.
No, for the Asian community.
Like, she is such a coward, and the way that she drops that N-word, it is so obvious that that's all she wants to do. She just wants to be a racist piece of shit. You fucking vile dickhead. And yes, some of them are in our favorite format of all time, the debate. I've done a video about this. You don't need me to tell you what I think of debates again. Do you? Okay, you do. All right, never mind. To sum it up briefly, debate is bad when a bigot is sat there presenting their horrible bigoted views that have been debunked millions of fucking times by people all over the world, not even just on the internet. If someone genuinely engages in that debate in good faith to try and tell them that they are wrong, you're basically lending credence to their arguments. You're saying these arguments are worth being spoken about, they're worth being debated, and you just shouldn't do that. We can't learn anything else from people with far-right or conservative-leaning views. They might ever so slightly change up what they're talking about every now and then, but it all comes back to the same thing again and again. Transphobia, it's related to what they said about the gays. Saying all lives matter and white lives matter, it's all just related to old school racism. There's nothing new to be learned. They are not coming up with new ideas. You know who are coming up with new ideas? That's right, the communists. But anyway, I digress. I started to see a bunch of these lives coming up on my feed, and so I would report them because they would have things on their screen saying like, trans women aren't real women, black people are just more violent, and I'm thinking they have to take that down, right? They can't just allow that shit on there. In Mia Cole's video, she talks very thoroughly about how TikTok just kind of pushes down in the algorithm social issues, topics that are really important. It just kind of like suppresses that stuff in the algorithm if you dare to talk about it. So yeah, not very cool, a little bit cringe. So don't get me wrong, TikTok Live, it's got some really cool stuff. Grace Wolstenholme, who I really want to give a shout out, she's a creator who has cerebral palsy, who does a really good job of creating awareness on what cerebral palsy is, how it affects people who have it, and she does some really good lives as well. But then we gotta talk about Envyy. Yeah, Envyy with 2 Y's. I fucking hate this fucker.
How would we gather statistics and data? Are we gonna have data for trans people, data for non-binary people, data for agender people, and all these 102 genders that have come out? How are we gonna categorize all this data? 8 billion genders if it's in a sense of self. What would happen if we say we need to go to war? Bricklayers, men like that do these hard grafting jobs that, I be honest, I believe only men can do.
She is quite possibly one of the most transphobic creators on TikTok who does live stream debates. As all TikTok live debaters present themselves as, they present themselves as willing to learn, willing to hear the other side of the story. But what actually happens in Envyy's live stream debates is she just gets like 10 other people on who agree with her and her transphobic views, and then like one trans person, and then they berate that trans person for saying correct and true things about trans people and claiming that they're being misogynist and just calling them a man, misgendering them. It's just so vile and disgusting.
Feelings are subject to change. Look at Dylan Mulvaney. First, he was straight, and then he was gay, and then he was non-binary, and then he was trans, and now he's a lesbian. Sam Smith, same fucking bullshit.
It's basically live stream bullying. That's what Envy's live streams are. Like, they're just so bad. And there is also Buzztex, and Buzztex is a bit of a weird one, but it's really bad. So what this guy does is, I think he wants to be a cop or something. I don't quite get it, but he like drives around the place where he is. He's British, obviously. I know, I'm sorry. Every day I realize how bad my country is. I hate it. I hate living here. Send me somewhere else. Please, Paul Golding, buy me that fucking ticket to Cuba. Buy me that ticket to China, dude. I swear to God, I will take you up on that shit. But yeah, he follows police cars around. And it reminds me of that movie Nightcrawler, but the long and short of it is that Nightcrawler is a movie where the main character, but basically in that movie, the main character chases ambulances, which is a really exploitative line of work. What they do is they chase ambulances, film things that have happened, accidents where people get maimed or killed or sexually assaulted or anything like that, and they film as much as they can and then sell it to news outlets. And that kind of reminds me of what's going on here with this guy, because this guy is basically finding police cars that are like stationary or just following them in general, recording what is going on, and people on TikTok are checking it out. This here is a clip of Buzztex's YouTube channel where he appears to be filming police who have arrested someone, and the person being arrested seems to think that Buzztex is doing this to observe the police properly.
Are you gonna film this?
It's filming, yeah.
But he's just getting content for his YouTube. So I just don't like this guy in general. I think he's really cringe. He's either just like not thought it through, or he doesn't give a shit. And both of those are pretty bad. One's not as bad as the other, but one of them's pretty fucking bad. One of the things I first started to see on TikTok Live were these guys who were just like saying Mr. Beast 1,000 times or something, and they would always look like they're just about to hit the counter for the 1,000th time, but then someone would drop a rose in the chat and they said, oh, if they're gonna drop a rose, then I reset the counter. I don't know what these rose things are, by the way. I'm just making this stuff up. It's like a currency. It's kind of like bits on Twitch. It's kind of like super chats on YouTube Live. So I don't know if it's one of those where he's trying to bait the audience into watching him going live, thinking that something's gonna happen, but I just hate the premise, and it's kind of like he wants to be a cop. In this extremely cringe video that I found again on his YouTube channel, he basically finds a bunch of people parked up. I don't know what they're doing. They're probably smoking weed or just hanging out on a Friday night or whatever. And he starts acting pure suspicious around him. So the guy naturally comes out of his car and says, "Are you a cop?" And then this exchange happens.
No, I'm not a plainclothes policeman, no. I'm not allowed to confirm or deny. Why? What's the problem?
Like, what is he on about? If you are a cop, you literally do have to tell people in the UK. Unfortunately, this kid is clearly high as shit. He doesn't know his rights. He doesn't know actually what you're supposed to ask a police officer if they're behaving in a bizarre way around you, or if someone is suspected of impersonating a police officer, which Buzztex is actually fucking doing right here. This is really fucked up behavior, and it just goes to show that he's desperate to be a police officer. He's desperate to be a cop. He just keeps going on this back and forth. This video is absolutely bizarre. I will show you this in the description, but he just enters into this back and forth with this young lad, basically neither confirming or denying that he is a policeman.
So what is it with police officers? Man, it's crazy. A spokesman for the IOPC said, during our investigation, our investigators interviewed the officer under criminal misconduct caution. Rightly so. Not all police officers are bad guys. I've got to make that very clear, but it's very important that I say this. Powers will soon be taken off you, and we cannot, and I stress this, we cannot blame all police officers like this. There's a hell of a lot of police officers out there who are doing a hell of a good job. Yeah, we've got to respect that. But I say, police officers who are abusing their powers, you've got to think about what you're doing, because you know what? It won't belong until you're in the papers, and it won't belong until you're exposed for doing what you're doing.
even if you want to be a cop, you're a bastard. Just letting you know, if you want to be a cop, a security guard, anything like that, you're a cunt.
Big up to the police force. Respect.
And the next one I'm going to talk about is like not necessarily a person, but it's a group of people, and all they do is talk about conspiracy theories. There isn't like one set guy to this. There are like a couple of them, but there's one guy who has this name, and it's really cringe. Like even if like you just like read his name, it says Predestined for Light on YouTube. So he's advertising his YouTube channel where he also just does conspiracy shit. He's got like this thing on a whiteboard behind him where he's like talking about the 1% and then Revelations 12 and all this other stuff, and it's like, oh dude, I just hate conspiracy people so much. Like, why are you like this? There are also flat earthers over on TikTok as well. Yes, they're getting a kind of resurgence because TikTok is just like promoting these guys in people's feeds. I have to like stress, I don't watch any content like this on TikTok. The closest thing I watch to conspiracy stuff is maybe like ghost content, like paranormal content. But the thing is about TikTok is you could do this thing where you press and hold on a certain TikTok that comes your way and you just press not interested, and that creates the algorithm for you, yeah? But for some reason, when I do that on TikTok lives, even though there are two options where you can like say, I don't like this live or I don't like this live creator, I still keep seeing these fools on my fucking For You page. So that makes me think that TikTok is actively promoting these incredibly dangerous people who are spreading lies and misinformation, not just about trans people, not just about black people, but about fucking vaccines as well.
I am the kind of guy that took and stood up for people that took the jab too. They're like, how could you be standing up, Tracy, for people who took the jab when you were like, don't take the jab, don't take the jab. Don't.
And after the molecule has folded over and it's become this, the person would be killed and the blood would be drained, right? And this is also why they call it the white rabbit.
Oh, fucking hell. Where people wearing certain cycles and people are trying to do astrology to find out who they are. No one has ever got onto it until someone found out that they had the time. Because now we can go back to our original time and we can work out when time is actually invented and stuff like that, and then that disproves a lot of stuff what people believe in. Oh, fucking hell.
There's also this one guy called King Mika who seems to have his main content on TikTok be like self-improvement and inspirational kind of stuff, but when you dig a little deeper, it gets pretty bad. It gets pretty fucking bad. And on one of his lives, his whole thing, like he says modern feminism isn't needed. All it is a hate group, but he like crosses it out because you can't have the word hate group on a TikTok. Feminism isn't needed in first world countries. So interesting take there. Interesting take. Okay, free the top G. It's Andrew Tate. He's back. It's Andrew Tate. He's back in the form of these other guys who just want to emulate him. They want to emulate him. I don't know why you would make it your entire thing as a guy to emulate a guy who got put in prison for doing sex trafficking, literal sex trafficking, sex slavery. But again, they don't believe that any of that stuff is true. They just kind of sit there and go, oh, it's the Matrix, they made it all up, blah, 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 blah. It's not all men. Stop blaming men for your problems. This isn't the thing that feminists do. Like even like very, very serious radical feminists don't say that like every single man in the world is a terrible person just because they're a man. The feminists out here aren't doing biological essentialism. The only feminists that are doing that are fucking TERFs, and they're not feminists. There is no wage gap, like putting all this stuff in inverted commas. It's so annoying, just in quotation marks. Neo-pronouns equals new level of attention seeking. Who's giving him the attention, dude, right now? Who's giving him the attention right now? Is it people who support them or is it people who hate them? Because it looks like it's you, and I don't think you support them. Faking mental illnesses for attention makes you a bad person. So here's the thing. I don't know anybody who like really does that, and I think that was like a bit of a really toxic trend that happened on TikTok like a year ago or something. But is this guy gonna be saying that mental illnesses are X thing, like actual mental illnesses, or is he gonna be saying that Thinking you're trans is a mental illness. I don't know. I don't listen to these things. I don't engage with these things because they really fucking piss me off. All I do is I see them come up and I report them. And it's not just King Mika. This guy is a small fry. He's not got that many followers. He's got like 1,500 followers. He is not one of the big fish. The problem is that when someone gets to be a big fish, like Andrew Tate or Sneeko, they actually like get banned, right? Because people realize, oh shit, these misogynist men, they're spreading lies and misinformation, and that's really bad. It looks bad on our brand, it looks bad on our platform, so we should ban them. But then the problem is that all the little copycats sort of make up the space that they were filling that is now not there. Does that make sense? You know what I'm trying to say, innit? Great example of this that isn't social media is the recent allegations surrounding Russell Brand. Channel 4, who have worked with Russell Brand on many occasions over the last 10 or more years, and apparently a bunch of staff, a bunch of people who worked for and within Channel 4 knew about everything that he was doing and actually were sometimes tasked with finding him women to sleep with. They all knew that this stuff was going on, and so they went, we better do a Dispatches episode about this guy before more stuff starts to come out. If that just doesn't reek of damage control, I don't know what is. It's the systems that enable men like this. It's too much for me to talk about in one video where I'm just supposed to be talking about TikTok Live and why it's bad, but you know what I'm trying to say. So anyway, there's TikTok Live for you. It's a whole rogues gallery of just the worst people that you would ever see. And I know that sounds kind of depressing, but again, I just want to remind people that TikTok is like YouTube. It's like Facebook. It's like X and Twitter, even though that one has gone a little bit over the edge, even compared to some of the others recently. But you're always going to see social media sites promote stuff like this because we live in capitalism, and capitalism demands that we make money and profits, unending, unsustainable profits, never-ending profits. It's completely unsustainable. You can't do it. But the thing is that they are desperate to make money, and people who rile people up, who get people mad, will attract a big audience and therefore more ad revenue and therefore more money. So while this is really bad, I think it's important to remember that like you might just be hurting yourself if you just scroll through all these different guys' accounts reporting them, because I don't even think the reports get looked at. I've reported a bunch of these people and just nothing seems to be done about it, even though they definitely check the box of what is considered hate speech and bigotry on TikTok. So I think it's just one of those things. It's one of those things that we're gonna have to learn to ignore. And I think that is probably the most effective thing that you could do with people like that.
Also remember Envyy that I spoke about a while ago? Well, yeah, she's not just like some kind of silly Billy who has heard transphobic arguments and is trying to like make them, and is like trying to turn it into a bit of a grift, but she doesn't really know what she's doing. No, she actually did a 24-hour live stream where she was raising money for Posey Parker, aka Kelly J. Keane Minchell, aka the fascist Barbie, who literal fascists have showed up at her demonstrations in order to show their support for her transphobic rhetoric. Yes, this woman is actually trying to fund a fucking Nazi. But here's what you can take away from this. Kelly J. Keane Minchell's politics are actually not as popular as she'd like to think. And in that same way, Envyy's audience, even though she hits sometimes 100 viewers, 120 plus viewers, that isn't really reflected in how much they actually support her, because over the entire course of her 24-hour live stream on TikTok Live, she only raised £125, which is pitiful, considering when I did my first 24-hour live stream fucking 5 years ago, and I had a fraction, maybe 25% of the viewers that she had, I rose about £1,000. So she may sit there thinking that she's super popular and that everybody believes her gender critical turf bullshit. It just really isn't the case.
We're the ones that have the new ideas. We're the leftists. We're the ones who are starting to break free of capitalist realism and tell you how to live, even though you're inside capitalism, but living according to your values and doing the best that you can to try and make the transition between capitalism and something else, hopefully not fascism, a little easier for everybody. Speaking of which, that's exactly what we do on the Sunday Commie Roundtable that I co-host with Kira Chat, Sophie from Mars, and Conquest of Dread. Every Sunday night at 8 p.m. UK time, Red Planet. Make sure you join us over there on twitch.tv/Red Planet Live, or you can check us out on YouTube. We're also on Patreon. You should check out patreon.com/Red_Planet and help us get an editor. So there you go. Hopefully that was a transition into a nicer ending than one to be depressed about because TikTok Live is really bad and TikTok is really bad. I don't know. But another thing I like to do on my channel is shout out smaller creators, and please, please, please go and show some love to Third World Miss Explores. She is a content creator from South Africa who's done an amazing 3-part video series on the brutality of apartheid and colonialism in South Africa. I'd highly, highly recommend it if that's a bit of a blind spot for you as a leftist. I know it was for me, so please go and check her out. She deserves a lot of love. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give me a like, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It really helps me out. And don't forget, as I said earlier in the video, consider becoming a patron. It helps me pay the bills, it helps me pay the rent, helps me eat, helps me go on little dates. So if you liked what you saw, if you learned something, if it made you laugh, please consider giving me a bit of dough. Don't forget to check me out every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday over on twitch.tv/DJMUEL. You can go ahead and support me over there as well. And just crack on and check out the linktree.ee link down in the description as well. I'm on Linktree, linktree.ee/DJ Mule. All of my social media is on there. I'm on Blue Sky now as well. If anyone is watching and wondering if I'm on Blue Sky but you forgot to check or whatever, I don't know, go ahead and check me out over on Blue Sky. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate you. Take it easy. Stay excellent to each other. Peace, solidarity, and love. Goodbye.
Oh, fucking hell.